tying up the latest Remnant Fly today. This turned out to be kind of just a baitfish imitation, what I'm going to call it. But the interesting thing about this fly, I've done some others similar to this, and the mallard flank collared on the front here, on some of these in front of the dumbbell eyes, I always wanted to do something with that because I didn't like the way it just kind of flared out at a perpendicular angle. And a friend of mine who reached out to me a while back about some other things gave me a suggestion. Kevin Erickson's got a great book out called Feathercraft. You ought to take a look at it if you really get into doing some of the classic patterns, and if you want to learn more about exotic feathers and some of the feathers that are used in classic fly tying. Anyway, he had seen one of these remnant videos that I posted, and he came up with the suggestion of sweeping all of that back and binding it in on the other side of the dumbbell eyes. Don't know why I didn't think of it, but again, I did it, and I thought I didn't quite like the outcome, and that's what these remnant flies are about. Slapping something together, you got an idea in your head, let's see how it turns out, and not being concerned about, is it really going to function, is it going to work, or whatever. You just want to see. I never really put much more thought in it, but he suggested sweeping them back and binding them behind the dumbbell eyes, and I thought it was a great idea, so I've been kind of wanting to try it. And I did today and put a little bit of red as kind of a gill flash over that, and I think it turned out pretty good. So that's the latest remnant fly. I'll get busy tying. So I'm going to start this latest remnant fly with the hook and the vise. This is a Tiemco 200R in a size 4. Very familiar with this hook. You could use a regular streamer hook for the fly that we're tying. Like I said, I'm just slapping some stuff together for a streamer-ish type baitfish pattern. Mostly interested in the technique that I'm going to do around the eyes with some mallard flank. And I'll explain more about that when I get up to that. But so that's the hook. I debarbed the hook. Oops, get that out of there. For thread, I'm going to use a Danville 70 denier in white. If you want, you could use something a little bit heavier. It's up to you. I'm going to attach my thread about an eye length behind the eye of the hook. I'm going to bring this down and back up. I want to be about 2 eye lengths. Yeah, that's about right. Behind the eye of the hook. That's where I'm going to tie in the dumbbell eyes. Now the dumbbell eyes, these are a machined silver dumbbell eyes that's got a green eye with a black pupil. I forget who makes these, to be honest with you. This was in my remnant stuff, and I just grabbed it because I thought it looked interesting. I'm going to tie these in. I want those to be back just a little bit more, scooch more. You could use any dumbbell eye on this. You could use just all silver if you want, or even lead, or painted, say, white with black pupil or something like that. It's up to you. This fly is just kind of something that came to me, meaning that I'm just grabbing things as I'm putting it together because I have a concept in my head. When we put the mallard flank up front and I tie that in, that's when I'll explain it a little bit more, because that's really kind of what the focus of this fly is. I'm going to run my thread all the way back down to the bend here. That's where I'm going to tie in the tail. I'm just kind of between the point and the barb of the hook. For the tailing material, you could use whatever you want. Some marabou would work well with this. I happen to have just a little strip of Arctic fox, some white Arctic fox in my remnant materials. So I'm going to cut a somewhat healthy chunk of this off of here. I'll want to clean some of the underfur out of here because that's going to be kind of a big mess to try and tie that in. So I'm going to tease some of that underfur out because I'm looking for some body to it, but mostly the real long fibers, the long hairs that are in this. Keep this if you want. It's good dubbing. Could be used for other flies if you want. So with all that under fur out of there, I'm just going to collect this all together. Again, I'm looking for the nice long fibers on this. And I'm going to tie that in so the bulk of it's about the same length as the hook. I think I'm going to try and get just a little bit more out of there. Again, these remnant flies, they really are just kind of a shoot from the hip experimental type fly in that regard. There we go. I like that a little bit better. I'm going to lash that in before I go up the hook shank to tie that in. I'm going to put some flash. I got some holographic silver Flashabou here. I'm just putting a couple of strands on both sides. I'm going to secure that in on my side here. I'll just bring that up under the thread. It's the easiest way. About as long as a tail. Wrapping that back down. I'll then bring that Flashabou over and lash it down to the other side. Then I'll trim that the length of the tail. Now I'm going to work my way up the hook shank. Doesn't have to be nice touching turns. I just want to bind in the rest of that Arctic fox along the hook shank. Again, if I were doing this as a production fly or something like that, I'd be a little bit more careful. But right now I'm more interested in kind of the concept of what I'm doing. For the body, I'm just going to use some, I'm pretty certain, some cactus chenille, tinsel chenille, something like that. You could use some Estaz. I had some Estaz. I thought it was a little bit fuller and longer than I wanted. I wanted to keep this short because this is just a little baitfish imitation. But, if you're going to do this, then you do it however you want. You can have that more bulk to it, and then you could put some rubber legs in here, all kinds of stuff. I'm going to apply that tinsel for the body. I wanted to get a little bit more flash in here, so that's why I chose some tinsel chenille. I was going to do some just regular white chenille, but I wanted to get something that would have a little bit more glint to it. And wet down that tinsel back here. Try and get it out of the way. I'll bring this on up. Doesn't have to be super packed in. And remember, this is going to ride hook point up. So I'm going to secure that in just right behind those dumbbell eyes. And now I'm going to tie in some Grizzly dry fly hackles as kind of a lateral line. So I got a couple of dry fly hackles here. I'm just going to tie this in going back along the body. This will actually swim along the body. It's got a bit of a curve to it right here. See if I can't get that out of there a little bit. But I'm going to flip this over and I'm going to tie this in so it's a little bit on this side. So not only will it go down along the side a little bit, but it will be up on that side. So as this is swimming, you're going to see that. And this is just to add a little bit of contrast. was the idea behind it. I've got another one that I'm going to tie in. Same thing, trying to keep it more or less kind of on top, but going down the sides. Now I'm going to get some extra thread wraps on there, all of that to secure it. I'm going to put just a drop of head cement on there. I'm going to bring my thread around to the front, just between, actually right up against the dumbbell eyes. This is where I'm going to tie in some mallard flank. And I've got just a large mallard flank feather here. You could use some teal if you want a little bit more contrast in the fly. That would certainly work. But what I've done in the past with some of these remnant flies, just goofing around, and if I think of it, I'll mention it in the description down below. One of them that I did. I know I've had a couple of these where I've done these baitfish or imitations or whatever, and wrapped in a collar of mallard flank right in the front here. And then it sticks out all over the place, mostly straight up and down. And there was something in my head about doing that. I wanted to see how it would look and what I might do with it and everything. And I never quite got, I just didn't put more energy into it, to be honest with you. I just never took it anywhere. But as I mentioned, Keith Erickson, who wrote a really great book called Feathercraft, reached out to me not too long ago about some other things, but he saw that video and he mentioned to try doing what I'm going to do here. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to collar this in, just like in the other videos. But then I'm going to get my thread back behind. Actually, when I think about it, let me do that first. Before I collar this, no, because I got to secure that in. I can't. But I'm going to pull all of this down behind and wrap it in behind the dumbbell eyes. And in this case, I'm going to also put some rabbit fur. I'm going to put some dubbing right in there so that it looks a little bit like a gill flash. And I just broke the feather. Too much wrapping there. Okay. Let me unwrap this and I'll get another feather. Let me start that over again. There. So I've got one here. This one's not bad. It's a little bit lighter color. I want to get one that is a nice wide feather, but and I don't think I have one in here, but I want one with a little bit darker banding on it, but I'm not going to get that. So again, looking at this as kind of proof of concept, we're going to go with this. So again, I'm going to take this feather, I'm going to about a third of the way down, quarter of the way down, I'm going to isolate that tip. I'm going to tie that in right behind those dumbbell eyes, bringing my thread up behind the eye of the hook. I'll now wrap this in. I want to try and wrap most of it in, I think. It's just an interesting notion about having this here. And I want to see if I wrap this, pull it back and wrap it down behind the eye of the hook. I want to see, do I get kind of a collar, poofed out little, not poofed, but at least spread out collar back there. I'm not being as precise as I probably should be here while I'm tying this in. I think I'm going to go with that right there. Not certain if I really need to leave myself. I'm going to catch that in, see what it does. Not certain if I need to leave myself a little bit more room behind the eye of the hook to get more wraps of that feather in. So now I've got all of this in. I'm going to just wrap this down here a little bit like this. I'm going to bring my thread underneath those eyes and behind them, like that. Now I'm going to try and distribute a lot of this all around. For some reason, it seems I have a lot of it clumped up near the top. But I'm going to just sweep this back. Like that. And then wrap that right back there. Yeah, that's pretty much what I was going for. Interesting. Spread that around a little bit. That looks a lot better. Now I'm going to put a little whip finish on here, and that's more or less to secure that. You could potentially put a whip finish up in the front too. But before I finish this off and actually finish the fly, I'm going to take some rabbit. I've got just a little bit of rabbit zonker here, and I'm going to cut some of this out, and I'm just going to dub a little bit around behind the eyes so it looks kind of like a gill flash. So I'm just going to make probably a 4 or 5 inch thin dubbing noodle here, just so that I can get this wrapped in and it will stay nice and compact. I don't really want it to be fuzzy or anything. Of course, if it gets a little fuzzy, it's no big deal. But then just put a little bit of gill flash right back here. You could use other colors if you wanted to, just to give that a little bit there. Extra wrap. I'll bring my thread around to the front. And I could have done a whip finish on the back. Looking at it now, put those eyes a little bit further back. Give yourself some more room, so I'm just crowding the eye just a little bit there. But that, I think, works pretty good. I'm going to put some head cement here on all those thread wraps on the underside of that dubbing. I'm going to get some down in the thread wraps there. But that worked out very well. Again, it'll be down in the description, one of the other flies that I did where I didn't sweep the mallard flank back and it was right in front here and just kind of sticking out wild. I like this better. I like and I've seen flies like this. I don't know why I didn't think of that, but I will give credit where credit is due. And Keith gave me a really nice suggestion, and I've been kind of dying to try it. So, Keith, I'm sorry, Kevin Erickson. I'm trying to walk and chew gum at the same time. So anyway, check out his book. It's very, very good. And that's the latest Remnant Fly. Thanks for watching today. Thank you for joining me at the Vise today. I hope you learned a new pattern, at least a tip or trick here and there. If you'd like to help Dress Irons, you can like, comment, share, subscribe, all those wonderful things for the video. You can also head out to dressedirons.com where you can buy flies, tools, stickers, and merch, or you can join a growing community over on Locals at the Dressed Irons Fly Tying Guild. You can also donate to Dressed Irons if you want through the link at the bottom of the description. I thank everybody for their ongoing support, as it really does help the creation of these videos. But what's important is to remember, only fly tying. If you're not having fun, you're doing it wrong.